it seems like I'll always get roped into like some men's group.
Oh, yeah.
And all it is a group of
groups.
like 50 dudes talking about fighting the urge to masturbate. I don't do it. It's terrible. I feel the temptation and I just walk away. I'm like, you motherfuckers are lying.
Do you think that's every Sunday's conversation?
It is. I've been to like 3 of them and it all focused on pornography and masturbation.
We're struggling.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Mm-hmm. Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your 3 co-hosts, Roger Roper, and sitting with me in the room for the first time together, all collectively, are my 2 co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene, the Gagolfin Lyons.
I didn't come in you, Pete. I swear.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week the audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out a race car VHS tape or rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. At the end of the podcast, the 3 of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and True Detective. That being said, Big D, we are still in commission season throughout this entire summer, as we have been for the last, I don't know, however many weeks. But it's also happens to coincide with your birthday at the time of we're recording. You hopped on a Delta plane and flew out to Phoenix, Arizona, where I picked you up. It's Sunday night. We're recording back-to-back podcasts. How does it feel collectively in your mind to be all in the same room for the first time?
It's very strange. I'm not quite comfortable. I don't know where to look. Do I look at the mic? It's like the first time that we recorded, and my wife laughed at me when I'm looking at me through the window as I was recording. I feel awkward. I feel like
it feels strange to sit there and look. I can reach out. I can touch you.
I want you to. No.
I can see Gene.
Yes.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm just like,
so
what
weird.
do we do here?
It's so strange. But it's been a great weekend having you. We went to Dollar Beer Night at Phoenix Rising. Phoenix Rising won again. That was your actual birthday. We got you a cake. Mm-hmm. We went to Medieval Times yesterday. That was fun. We took you on a King Bee nonstop action kayak adventure down the Salt River.
Yeah, nonstop.
And we got to meet your Krav Maga mentor last night.
Oh, Chad?
Yeah, Chad.
He's more like my training partner, though. If you ask him, he probably thinks he's my mentor. Yes, but we got to meet Chad, who is the only person in Arizona with a vehicle that Big D fits in. So it was very exciting.
It was the most comfortable.
Guys, if you're looking for a roomy pickup, the Toyota Tundra cannot be beat.
Yeah. Plenty of legroom.
Yeah.
Plenty of legroom.
Yeah.
But yeah, Roger, the commissions do keep coming, and John has the honor of being the first podcast that we're all together. This could be very good or it could be very bad. We'll see which way it goes. But John wrote in and he wanted us to do the Kevin Smith 1999, some will call it a classic, Dogma.
Yeah, and again, as the process goes, anytime someone commissions a movie, we ask that they submit a letter. And we've got a note that was sent in to not only the 3 of us, but also our collective shatters that have done podcasts with us.
Yeah, so this is a $5. So this one comes to Raj, Gene, Big D, Carrie, and the King Bee. It says, first off, let me share my thanks for endless hours between Shat the Movies and Shat on TV. This commission is long overdue and a selfish one, I must say, as a small token of thanks for all the entertainment I've consumed from you over all of the years. Lots of loyal shatters appreciate your hard work and dedication it takes to make this podcast. Dogma is not only one of my favorite movies of all time, but one that really has had an impact on my upbringing and an ironic twist a little later in life. I'm 32, and I first saw this movie shortly after it was released in 1999. The timing is interesting because I was enduring my preparation to be confirmed in the Lutheran Church. At the time, my church was in a heavy fundraising campaign and was crossing the line between supporting the faith and soliciting donations for a new edition. The movie's quote, "No denominations nailed it yet, and they never will because they're all too self-righteous to realize that it doesn't matter what you have faith in, just that you have faith," became my new religion. It's worked out well thus far. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In 2008, I finally convinced the girl I'd been after for a while to start dating me. She was what I would consider a serious Catholic. When I say that, I mean to this day, I can count on one hand how many weekends she has missed Catholic Mass. I only recently subjugated my wife and in-laws to a viewing of this movie. Now, here's the funny part. They are from, of all places, Wisconsin, which this movie proclaims as worse than hell. That really got a chuckle out of them, and after that, it was a complete Catholic cringe fest. I might have enjoyed that part better than the movie itself. This movie is not only funny, but it features an all-star cast. It's meant to be taken lightly, but it has meaning that cannot be ignored. I know that the Shat The Movies team is up to talking about religion, comedy, and Kevin Smith movie antics. I can't wait for you to rate this one. Thanks for all you do. My wife listens as well. Pray for our marriage. John Yu from Minnesota.
Thank you, John, for writing in and commissioning. Again, if you want to commission a movie here at Shat The Movies, you just go to our website, shatthemovies.com, click on the donate link, right?
I think it's support.
It's a support link, right? Yeah. And then there's links to our Venmo, there's links to our PayPal.
Correct.
If you commission at least $100 and send in a letter to hosts at shatthemovies.com, we will do your movie. It's like buying the Fast Pass.
Right, but again, just write us first.
Yeah.
Okay? We're not going to get tricked. Okay, write us first. You send us $100 and say that you're doing Prince of Tides. It's not happening. You're getting $100 refunded.
Also, Baptists, Protestants, Unitarians, the gauntlet has been thrown down by the Lutherans. You can win this holy war with your commission, so let's get going, for God.
Dogma is a 1999 American fantasy comedy film written and directed by Kevin Smith, who also stars with Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Linda Fiorentino, Alan Rickman, Salma Hayek, Chris Rock, Jason Lee, George Carlin, Janine Garofalo, Alanis Morissette, and Jason Mewes. It is the fourth film in Smith's View Askew universe series. Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson, stars of the first Askew-niverse film, Clerks, also appear in the film, as do a bunch of Smith regulars. The story revolves around two fallen angels who plan to employ an alleged loophole in Catholic dogma to return to heaven after being cast out by God, but as existence is founded on the principle that God is infallible, their success would prove God wrong and thus undo all creation. The last Scion and two prophets are sent by the seraph Metatron to stop them. The film's irreverent treatment of Catholicism and the Catholic Church itself triggered considerable media controversy even before its opening, and the Catholic League denounced it as blasphemy. Organized protests delayed its release in many countries and led to at least 2 death threats against Kevin Smith. We always ask the question, where were you? What are your memories of this movie the first time you watched it? We'll start with you, Big D.
So I'll say something that I guess is going to be blasphemy. I don't find Kevin Smith funny. I don't find his movies funny. I've never wanted to watch one. I've probably watched maybe 10 minutes of Clerks. I watched him on that stupid cartoon show, like Comic Guys or whatever.
Comic Book Guys?
Yeah.
That's not a cartoon show.
It's like about comic books.
It's basically what we're doing right now. It's sitting around the table.
Right. But
podcasting. That's what it is.
I'd hate myself.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, you guys are crazy.
So on top of that, I was never religious. The only time
on top of hating Kevin Smith, that's why you were never really okay. So because of Kevin Smith, you're not religious.
No, they're two different things.
Okay.
But the only time I ever actively went to church was in the Army on Sundays. You had a choice of either staying in basic training. You'd either stay back and clean the barracks,
right,
or you'd go to a service. So I would do the rounds. So I'd be like, okay, today I'm going to go to the Catholic service. Tomorrow I'll go to the Protestant.
Yeah.
I'll go to the Buddhist. I did the rounds, and it was a way of getting out of...
How many weeks was basic training?
Oh, I don't know now. I don't
like
remember.
12, 16 weeks?
I did what's called 1 unit training, where you do basic training and AIT at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was months.
My question is, like, how many religions were you able to see?
Oh, I think I looped around.
Oh, so you did a lap.
Yeah, it was like in, what is it, Fight Club, where they think that he was a tourist for the...
a grief tourist.
Yeah, I was a grief tourist. I was a religious tourist.
Yeah. Which one did you find more appealing?
I don't know. They were all interesting. I felt like it was story time. Like I was sitting there as somebody who's telling me...
Who had the best shows then?
I thought the Buddhists were kind of
cool. The Buddhists were pretty cool. I imagine they would be.
Yeah, so between not loving Kevin Smith and not having a relationship with God, I had no reason to see this movie. And even till today, I still think Kevin Smith chose the topic partially because it was so controversial. And for that forced reason and not liking the topic, I just never saw it.
What about you, Gene?
John, you're really getting your money's worth out of this one. So when I saw this movie, I was in college, and all throughout my college career at Arizona State, which is the Sun Devils, oddly enough, I was a LaVeyan Satanist. So I remember watching this movie and saying like, hell yeah, right on. Like, fuck God. And I thought this movie was so rebellious and so cool. And I only saw it once, and it was in a theater, but it really felt groundbreaking to me. Like, I thought this movie was going to open the floodgates to like anti-Christianity. I thought it was so cool.
What is a LaVeyan Satanist?
So there's different kinds of Satanists, but the ones that subscribe to the Satanic Bible it was written by Anton Szandor LaVey. They're LaVeyan Satanists. So there's Luciferians, and that's like a different belief system entirely. But basically, LaVeyan Satanists mostly believe in, the self over the group, and like believe basically that all the things that are considered sin by the church are actually good things, right? If you turn them around, so like greed is actually motivation, right? So it's so it just kind of turns everything on its head. I was very much a subscriber to LaVeyan Satanism in college, and then basically as I got older and matured a little bit, I settled into just a nice, comfy, cozy atheism.
Well, I, like you, I did see this in theaters and thinking to myself, this really gives me comfort in being what I would still consider like, people say recovering Catholic, right? But I grew up Catholic. I went to CCD class, all that stuff. I tried to go to Catholic mass when I moved out here to Arizona with my girlfriend at the time. Most of my life, I always had to work on Sundays. And then when I moved out to Arizona, I no longer had a weekend job, so my Sundays were free. So I was like, well, maybe I'll revisit this whole religion thing, maybe get more into my spiritual happenings. But that, like, when I went, they have switched all the prayers. Like all like if you're a Catholic, you go to mass because of the rituals, and there's some sort of comfort in that rituality. And in the movie, we'll dive here into the similarities and what I really took comfort in being a Catholic and watching this movie. But when I went, it was almost like they had changed everything that I found comforting about the church. And then I just looked like a fake Catholic. So at the time, I remember thinking to myself, man, they're nailing this whole Catholic thing. And I, unfortunately, am a big fan of Kevin Smith. I love his movies. And so this was a real treat to me. So when I heard we were going to commission, I was really looking forward to it because I haven't seen it in a while, and I wanted to kind of judge that based upon how I am today. I'm not quite a full Leviathan, because was it Leviathan? Yeah, Satanist. But I do believe there's organized religion has caused a lot of the problems in the last 20 some odd years, more than this movie ever did.
I think you're way too generous and too much of a philanthropist to be a true Satanist. Like you're not about you enough.
Exactly.
But we can work on that.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Big D, play the trailer.
Is this why I had to come down here this morning, man? This is why I had to miss my cartoons? You call me, you tell me it's important.
We're going home.
Take it, man, and quit leering at me. People are gonna think I just broke up with you.
Two fallen angels have just discovered a loophole that can get them back into heaven.
Outstanding work!
All they have to do is get to Red Bank, New Jersey. There's only one problem.
What are you? What do you want with me?
Stop a couple of angels from entering and thus negating all existence. I hate it when people need it spelled out for them.
Now,
I'm to charge you with a holy crusade.
one person has been chosen to stop them, but she won't have to do it alone.
I'm Jay. This is my head of life mate, Silent Bob.
You gotta be kidding me.
Prophets, in a manner of speaking.
What about sex?
No sex.
Guys, I guess just don't follow the sky, you know? Oh, that sucks!
What are you?
I was the 13th apostle.
You knew Christ.
No, brother owed me $12. I thought she looked familiar.
Let me guess. The 14th apostle.
We'd like 2 tickets to New Jersey, please.
Jersey's sold out, sir. I suggest you not underestimate the staggering drawing power of the Garden State.
They're successful. You and me, all of this ends in a heartbeat. I feel like Han Solo, you're Chewie, and she's Ben Kenobi.
Prepare to taste God's wrath.
Anyone who isn't dead or from another plane of existence would do well to cover their ears right about now.
The whole world's against us, dude. I swear to God.
What's he like?
God? It's got a great sense of humor. Take sex, for example.
Sex is a joke in heaven.
The way I understand it, it's mostly a joke down here, too.
Get it?
Bartleby, played by Ben Affleck, and Loki, played by Matt Damon, are fallen angels eternally banished from heaven to Wisconsin for insubordination who discover a way home through Cardinal Ignatius Glick, who's redirecting his church in the image of Buddy Christ, and anyone entering the rededication festivities will receive a plenary indulgence, remitting all sins. God would then have no choice but to allow the angels re-entry into heaven, and they are encouraged to do and follow through with this plan by the demon Azrael and the 3 teenage hoodlums who serve Azrael in hell.
Okay, so Bartleby is played by Ben Affleck and Loki is played by Matt Damon. They are, obviously favorites with this crew, and they're two actors who work together a lot in several films. And so you see the film kind of open with these guys. Well, actually, it opens with the 3 roller roller skating kids, or what do they call it? Rollerblading kids. It opens with the 3 rollerblading kids like knocking the dude down on the boardwalk. But then we get the actual conversation. The script kicks in. You got Damon, you got Affleck. They're up to their hijinks at the airport, and all I could think about was independent film class. So when I was majoring in journalism at Arizona State, one of the things I had to do was called the Declaration of Graduation. And I guess most of you had to do this in college, but basically they look at your credits. You tell them, I want to graduate at this time with this degree. And the counselor's like, hey, did you know that you could get a theater degree? Like a minor in theater? All you have to do is take like one more class in theater. And I was like, fuck, okay. So I signed up for independent film. And this movie is basically like the worst version of that course. I felt like I could see all the strings on the puppets 100%. And I could hear the director overcorrecting. Like they shot a good scene where they're like, hey, you're going to be on this like people mover in the airport and it's going to be fine. They're like, but what if we had the nun from earlier and she'll be in the background doing nun things? And then like they're going to be interacting with all the world around them. And, it's going to be really cool. And they just kept adding and adding and adding to the point you're so distracted you didn't care about the movie, like in the first 4 minutes.
Oh, see, I disagree. I think this cold open is amazing because it sets the tone perfectly for what we're about to experience, while at the same time utilizing background movement to allow for that Kevin Smith, that classic Kevin Smith dialogue to breathe. Because as we see in modern movies today, there's a lot of quick cuts. It's that Bayisms, right? It's that comparison between watching a Michael Bay film and watching someone like a Kevin Smith or a Quentin Tarantino, where they let their scenes go on for a long time. And unfortunately to the audience, that can be lost. If you just have 2 characters sitting and doing one shots, it becomes very boring. So you have to have something else going on. So to alleviate that, Kevin Smith does a really good job because his dialogue is quick. There's a lot of jokes, and he's setting up this entire mission in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the film. And I thought, well, he's actually learning, because this is only his 3rd film.
Sure.
And he's doing the people mover with the stuff in the background where you see the nun who's just renounced her religion, going in, stealing wine from the place. You see other things like the Mubi character in the background, which eventually comes back in the end. So I feel like of all his movies, he does a very effective job with the cold open.
So back when I lived in Northern California, there was this woman in Sacramento named Emily. And Emily one time went down on me, and it was fantastic. Okay. I mean, absolutely incredible. Just everything she was doing was
her
like
name again?
Magic. Emily.
Yeah.
Right. She's since discovered that she doesn't like men anymore, but it wasn't me. Shaggy.
Well, she had mastered going down on men.
Yeah, she wanted a new challenge.
I got to keep going up the escalator of success.
Everest. So anyway, I was like, you're a magician. Like, this is amazing. I was like, that was incredible. And she's like, oh yeah, it's easy. So I read about it in Cosmo, and you do this and you do this. And she laid out everything that she did. And I realized that she was just, she was painting by numbers. She had a recipe that she got out of a magazine, and it took all the magic out of it. And that's what I feel like watching this movie. I'm getting, this is an Emily blowjob that I'm getting from Kevin Smith. And even to the point where like they're like, okay, how are we going to set up their trip to Jersey? He's like, he's got a piece of paper and it's got the clipping on it, and then he's going to show it to Matt Damon, and that's going to get them moving on their way. And it felt to me like I appreciate it, and that'll be my theme throughout this podcast. Is I appreciate all the work that's going into it. I can just see all the work that's going into it, and it's distracting me.
No, but the problem is the people in the background of the people mover. It looks like an SNL skit where they go into the audience. Hold on. Where the guy's like, hey, look at Mubi. And they're laughing and it's forced and it's amateur.
I don't think it's forced.
And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they're Academy Award winners. They're actors. They're great real actors. Yeah. So they're working with amateurs here. And Kevin Smith, I still think he was one of them. He's done 3 movies. But everybody in the background, you can see when the camera hits them, they're like, oh, I'm on camera. Okay, time to act. Camera's off me. It's bad. And I want to ask about Kevin Smith because I'm not a Kevin Smith fan. Why does he have this weird man-child obsession with kids on rollerblades, hockey jerseys, hockey sticks? It's embarrassing. I'm not an adult who owns sports jerseys. I don't think any adult should ever wear a sport. You can own one if you wear it going to the game. If you played, it was your jersey. But when I see an adult man on TV or award shows wearing a hockey jersey, that tells me a lot about you.
Well, I think Kevin Smith, number one, I think he's always had an affection for, hockey. And then alongside with the fact that he was a bigger guy most of his life, he's lost a lot of weight since his heart attack. But the only thing he felt comfortable in from a body perspective was big, giant hockey jerseys. So I think it was a nod to hockey, the fact that he grew up playing the sport and he likes it in his movies. I don't know. There's a lot of things that he likes to throw in his movies for his fans.
So, Gene, as somebody who wears a suit when you fly on a plane because you don't know who you'll run into, would you ever wear an oversized sport jersey with someone else's name on it?
So I actually had this issue earlier this year. So I'm a big Arsenal fan, and they came out, Adidas took over the Arsenal jerseys and kits and made these beautiful remakes of the Bruised Banana. And the Bruised Banana is this very famous Arsenal kit. And they kind of brought it back to like Bruised Banana 2.0 this year. And I was like, oh, whose name should I get on the back of it? Because I feel like, and Raj agrees on this, a jersey with no name or number on the back just feels empty. It feels like there's a blank spot that should have something on it. But I discovered that I went on this board and like asked around like what other people were getting on their jerseys. If I should, what if the player gets traded, whatever. And I found out that like in Europe, that's something children do. Children get a name on the back of their jersey. Adults do not. That is like, unless you're on the team, you don't have it. Yeah. But the hockey jersey thing's really interesting because I get it. Like it's a nod to his New Jersey roots. And it's just kind of what he's comfortable in, and that's cool. And it was the 90s, let's not forget, like one of the worst periods for fashion, bar none. But I remember when Robert Smith from The Cure wore a hockey jersey on stage, and I was like, fuck, that's it. He's done. Like hockey jerseys are where artists go to die.
Who is it that wore Axl Rose when he came back?
Oh yeah,
was that a hockey jersey?
It was.
Yeah.
Or was it Raiders jersey?
It might have been an oversized Raiders
or Kings.
It fit like a.
So please, if you're out there and you're wearing jerseys, don't do it because people are looking at you and laughing.
No, I don't know if they're laughing.
It identifies you. It identifies you like a neck tattoo.
I feel like that was his suit, and he's on record as saying that it made him feel the most comfortable because he knew he was fat. He knew he had health problems.
Okay, so being fat made him put them in all his movies?
No, I'm just saying like wearing the hockey.
Yeah, I want to explain why does he have kids on rollerblades? Why are kids using hockey sticks as a weapon?
Because if you're going to number one, New Jersey, the Devils, hockey.
I can name any city and name the hockey.
But this movie is based. There's supposed to be demons, right? This is in New Jersey on the banks. So the New Jersey Devils. It's a nod for the hockey. And if you notice, one of the demon boys is wearing a Hellboy shirt. So he's putting in these little like fun clues that if you look a little bit closer,
so creative.
People in his audience like that kind of shit. And listen, I'm telling you, as a Kevin Smith fan, this is what happens. But it's interesting, Gene. You did talk about the fact that Dogma starts with that multi-page disclaimer that this movie is a comedic fantasy and shouldn't be taken seriously. I wonder if people who've never watched this movie understand the controversy associated with this film. In fact, that disclaimer was a reaction to a lot of the negative publicity and outrage surrounding the film before it was released. And at the time, I remember thinking it was a very clever way to deal with that like hysteria, that media controversy. But if you go back and you look at it now, the controversy really wasn't that big of a deal. Like people who said, oh, we're going to, like here in America, people said they were going to protest and then like 3 people protested. I think what it did is it actually prompted more people to go see this movie because almost 20 years after its theatrical release, it's still Kevin Smith's most commercially successful film of his career. But this movie is extreme. You can't find this on any streaming service right now.
Yeah, one of our listeners, Big Al, a.k.a. Rex Travers, he was telling me that he actually bought a car and this was just in the trunk of it.
Yeah.
So I think they were just trying to hide this movie as much as possible. Like, where can we put this movie so no one will find it? Let's put it in landfills in the back of used cars. They really want to bury this movie. They don't want it to be found.
Well, at the time, Disney owned Miramax in 1999, and because Dogma was catching that heat from the Catholic League, Disney let the Weinsteins, who owned Miramax, buy the film. So they still personally own the film. Lionsgate was the one who released it theatrically, and Sony did for home video, but because the Weinsteins have fallen out of favor from Hollywood, that deal didn't include digital because digital didn't exist. So, as a result of the Weinsteins being persona non grata in Hollywood, there's no one that's going to negotiate digital rights with the Weinsteins. So you can't find this movie on any streaming service. You can only find it on DVD or Blu-ray. And some Blu-rays, brand new in-box mint, go for over $100 on eBay. Like, this movie is highly sought after. So for all the controversy and the Catholics and the religious zealots being like, this movie's going to take down, like, it did more to like propel this movie into, you know, kind of the cult status and fact that people are willing to spend over $100 for a copy of this film.
Well, I think the controversy is fabricated. You said it. This is his most popular movie. Yeah. This is what he wanted. He put the disclaimer saying, hey, pay attention to me. I'm just a movie. Passion of the Christ is the only movie I remember that when it came out, people protested. People were angry. This movie didn't do it, but it worked for him. It got eyeballs. He was a new director. But to me, it all felt staged.
I think we said third. I think this is his fourth film because it was Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, then Dogma. So this is his fourth film. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's video of Kevin Smith protesting outside of his own. It was all a fucking charade. And I like that Kevin Smith, you know, reveled in the non-controversy shit of it.
I like that you like it because he sounds like the most unlikable human being on earth.
It's great.
Like, he's like, hey, let's make this movie, and then let's put the disclaimer on. Let's go out and protest the movie.
I thought the disclaimer was cute with the little platypus joke, and we apologize to platypi enthusiasts.
It's so painfully 90s that it's like, what's a weird
It is
animal?
a little dated.
Oh,
I will say that.
Yeah, that's funny. But we got to remember, guys, too, like, we always talk about these movies like these guys are older than we are.
Right.
And at the time, Kevin Smith was older than we are. But dude was like, I think 29 or 30 years old when he made this movie. So I tried to put myself at a decade younger, and maybe at that time, like, you know, what was I doing when I was 29? Certainly not making fucking movies, this complex and this aspirational. So, you know, fuck it. Give the man some credit. He was under 30 years old and making this movie. Bravo.
He's not the only one who was grabbing for some attention, I think, with this movie. The church, you're not religious anymore, Rod.
No, not organized religion. When I travel, I like to visit like the old churches, like Catholic Church, and learn the history. But, you know, the Jesuits are cool.
God doesn't listen to this podcast. You're okay, Raj.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
But do you go? I know you're atheist now, but do you have any lingering beliefs?
No, not at all. I was raised Baha'i, but I haven't been to a Baha'i feast or any sort of celebration in, I don't know, forever. I've been an atheist for decades now.
And that seems fairly common that more young people aren't going to church. So churches are struggling. So in researching, because I thought that the idea of Buddy Christ, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
It's something that you could see the church doing, and they're starting to do it. So if you live in Tampa Bay, the First United Methodist Church in Brookville, each week they have an outreach ministry from 4:30 to 6:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where it's a skateboard church. It's a skateboard ministry. Skateboarders are welcome to come. You can skate for 2 hours in the church parking lot near the basketball courts. Then you can participate in a fellowship and some pizza. So the churches are hurting to the point that they're encouraging skateboard kids to come in.
I bet that youth pastor pulls up the chair and then turns it around and sits on it backwards. And he's like, all right, guys, who's ready to rap?
He's like the
rap about my main man, JC.
Was it The Simpsons? Who was the skateboard character?
That was Poochie.
Poochie, the skateboard kid. Yeah.
That's right. No, I mean that's the problem I have. So as a Catholic, looking at this Buddy Jesus, and I think at the time it was kind of fun. Did you guys have the Hot Topic sold like the Buddy Jesus bobbleheads that you could put on your dash board and stuff like that? Yeah, Hot Topic got involved in the Dogma game. No, it was not Hot Topic. But yeah, no, it was but it was kind of fun to see that, but because they're making fun of it. But now, unfortunately, you bring that up, and that's what churches do. They try to be, hey, you know, JC was super cool, just like you, and come church. Remember, church. Hey, church is fun. It doesn't have. Anytime I see something like that, it creeps me out. It's weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, if I am going to say anything about Kevin Smith, if I apologize if I shit on him during this review, but Catholicism, wow, is a stroke of genius.
Yeah.
Like, it's the funniest phrase in movie. Like, Catholicism, wow.
Wow.
It's so good.
Like I said, my wife is religious. She's Seventh Day, and sometimes I'll go to church with her.
Yeah.
And it seems like I'll always get roped into like some men's group.
Oh, yeah.
And all it
they
is a
love
group
their
of like
groups.
50 dudes talking about fighting the urge to masturbate. And I'm looking at them all like you're fucking lying. I don't do it. It's terrible. I feel the temptation and I just walk away. I'm like, you motherfuckers are lying.
Do you think that's every Sunday's conversation?
It is. I've been to like 3 of them and it all focused on pornography and masturbation.
We're struggling. Do you think at one point the pastor's going to stand up? He's just like, just fucking do it so we can move on.
And there's always 2 or 3 guys who you know are in there because they're fighting, let's just say, some what the church says is unnatural urges.
Okay.
And they're just looking about at me like, oh God, who in here would I like to masturbate?
They're looking for help. They're like, well, it's not masturbation if I don't do it.
Yes.
Well, Bethany Sloan, a depressed abortion clinic counselor, attends a service at her church, her Catholic church in Illinois. Donations are solicited for a campaign to stop a New Jersey hospital from disconnecting life support on John Doe, Jersey, a homeless man who was beaten by the triplets and now in a coma. Meanwhile, the Metatron, played by Alan Rickman, a seraph, and the voice of God, appears to Bethany in a pillar of fire and explains that if Bartleby and Loki succeed in re-entering heaven, they will overrule the word of God, disprove the fundamental concept of God's omnipotence, and nullify all of existence. Bethany, aided by 2 prophets then, must stop those angels and save the universe.
So we were discussing this movie before rewatching it at Portillo's while Big D enjoyed his very first Portillo's Italian beef combo. By the way, if you haven't had a Portillo's Italian beef combo, it's 1,000 calories and it is worth every single one. But as we're talking about it, I'm telling the guys, I'm like, I saw this movie in 99. I haven't seen it since. And I just remember that there's Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. They're like angels. They're trying to get back into heaven. And Chris Rock is there. And Janine Garofalo. And in my head, Janine Garofalo was the female protagonist in this movie. I thought she was Bethany.
I see.
And so I'm like, oh, cool. We're going to see Janine Garofalo for like 2 hours. This is awesome. I wish she were. It was Linda Fiorentina, who, she's not terrible.
Right.
But Garofalo's in this movie for like 90 seconds. Like this movie does not have enough Janine Garofalo in it.
But this is where we're introduced to Jay and Silent Bob. Again, another thorn in my side. Why I don't find Kevin Smith movies funny. But they actually started to work on me. I started to be like, okay, I'm going to accept the fact that this is just a bite on Penn and Teller. You got one of them who's quiet, the other one's talking. When they show up at the abortion clinic, and she says, what the hell are you doing here? And Jay says, well, it's an abortion clinic. We figure this is loose women here who like to have sex. Where else could we hook up? I said, okay, the rationale makes sense to me. And I got a little bit of a chuckle. And at this point, I decided I was going to give the movie a chance. And I was going to give these guys a chance.
You talk about the shame groups at church saying that they don't masturbate. That's how I felt about Jay and Silent Bob, because they show up and I'm like, oh God, like they allude to it in the movie. They're like 2 prophets will approach. One of them doesn't ever shut up and the other one's very quiet. I'm like, I look over at Raj and I'm like, oh, fucking great. I wonder who that is. And I'm just saying, like, I imagine everybody in the theater when, 99 being like, oh, fuck yeah, it's going to be Jay and Silent Bob.
It was totally like that.
And then they do show up
remember.
and I want to hate it. And I'm like, fuck, this is pretty funny. Like Jason Mewes he's amazing. Like, I don't really like Kevin Smith as Silent Bob. I could give 2 shits. But this Jay character is like, he's misogynistic and juvenile and disgusting and lecherous. And at the same time, you're like, but he's the joke. Like, it's not portraying him as cool. It's showing how fucking ridiculous this mindset is. And then you can laugh at it and it's great.
I was wondering whether or not that would hold up and whether or not you would think about it, because in the late 90s, like, you could get away with shit like saying, like, let me see them titties. And like, I don't know, like, it was just such a weird time. Like, you look back and I'm like, is some of this uncomfortable and will it still hold up in a progressive mindset like the 2 of us have?
I think the other part with Jay that where guys kind of like laugh at it is that there's this subroutine that's running in all of our brains. It's like, don't say that. Don't say that. Yeah. But like, how many times you've been at a party and there's like, say 4 people hanging out, right? There's like 2 dudes and 2 chicks. And then one of the chicks like leaves. And then there's 1 chick and there's 2 dudes. And you're there till like 4:30, fucking 5 in the morning. Cause you're like, maybe the other dude will leave. And if the other dude leaves, she's going to bang me because there's 1 woman and me. And then of course we're going to have sex. Right. And like, you're thinking that. And then in hindsight, you're like, what the fuck? Like, that's the reason she's gonna fuck me? Or like maybe you're camping, right? And there's like somebody at the camp. You've got your camp, and then there's a camp next door, and there's a woman there. You're like, oh yeah, we're gonna fuck. Like that's gonna happen.
You're the best around.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, I take a different look because I like Kevin Smith, and I know he's the director, and I know he's just playing like a silent character, and I think his mannerisms are amateurish, comparative to the heavy hitters that are in this movie that are, actually doing a good job. One of the heavy hitters that comes on is playing the Metatron that I was not expecting looked fucking fantastic, was Alan Rickman.
Yeah, Raj, I think when he came on screen, like the fire subdues after he gets blasted by the fire extinguisher. And I think you were like, he looks good.
He does. He's like thin. He's fit.
Yeah.
He might be wearing a little bit too much makeup on.
That's his skin, dude.
Is that his skin?
No,
Yeah.
today I had that conversation with Kelly, your new friend, and we determined that it was his hair color. His hair was darkened, so it looks strange. We normally see him as salt and pepper, gray, or as Hans Gruber when he was more a little
80s yuppie
almost.
cocaine addict.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he looked good. But I mean, at this point, we're watching this movie together, the three of us. So we came back after dollar beer night. Gene is sober for 70-something days. Roger and I had been drinking many dollar Bud Lights. And I think, how far into the movie did we make it, Gene?
You made it roughly 30 minutes, but you tapped out. Like you said, like I got to rack out. I'm done. So that was cool. Raj just kind of fell asleep. He looked like a wet submarine sandwich. That was the way his body was arranged. And I was just like, fuck it, man. I guess I'm watching this thing. But hey, look, again, like you guys had put down a bazillion beers. I was completely sober. I mean, it's easy to stay awake. But
well, I did like 2 beers. What gets me at the Phoenix Rising matches are the Palomas. Because it's no sugar and it's tequila.
Yeah, but you're that asshole that goes to dollar beer night
I know,
and then buys
orders
like $12 Palomas.
But I'll buy other people beer, so I'm giving to the thing.
So Alan Rickman comes on the screen, and we're like, yeah, Alan Rickman, he looks good, but there is one thing, and I'm like, what is it about Alan Rickman? And because this movie, what Kevin Smith does that other people don't do with Alan Rickman is close-ups. Never do close-ups of Alan Rickman because his top teeth,
not good.
His top teeth are fine.
Oh, okay.
It's the bottom teeth. Because he's got those lips, they're kind of like they're reaching out. It's like I would dare call them like labial. But then he's got like the lower teeth are a disaster. They're just like very crooked and kind of like rotting a little bit.
Are very. No, I can't even do it now. I have to get into the.
So anyway, just a request for well, I guess we don't have to worry about it.
We don't have to then. Yeah.
Well,
oh my God, you made me look it up. Yes, they're almost non-existent.
His bottom teeth.
Yeah, it looks.
Do you think he must have veneers on the top?
I think he grinds them. Look, come here, look.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, the bottom ones look like baby teeth that have been ground down. Like don't Google it.
It's not Brock Lesnar bad, but it's pretty bad.
Or Ben Affleck before Armageddon bad.
Oh, it's much worse.
Yeah,
much worse.
Ben Affleck in Chasing Amy still has his Tic Tac teeth, and it's gross.
But the top teeth look great.
Yeah,
look great.
Rest in peace, Alan Rickman. Yeah.
But I talked about like how Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino share similarities in that they're very verbose in their language. Their dialogue feels like when you're watching a Kevin Smith movie, you're like, okay, he wrote this. Same thing with Quentin Tarantino to the point to where like I gotta ask the question, is Kevin Smith the Quentin Tarantino of comedic films from the 1990s? Because they're both talented screenwriters and they have unique visions beyond just the mainstream, and their films tend to exist almost in like these self-contained universes that, share similarities. So every time you go to a Quentin Tarantino movie, you're going for a Quentin Tarantino experience. Is that the same thing for Kevin Smith? Like, until Quentin Tarantino and Kevin Smith, Hollywood was content making shitty comedy films.
I think a key difference though is that Tarantino. Wow, we sound like a real movies podcast.
I know, it's weird, right?
I think the real difference is Tarantino. Everything that he does is an homage to the greatness of Hollywood and film.
Right.
And I think that Kevin Smith, everything he does is almost a rejection thereof, right?
You think so?
Like, yeah, because I mean, think about it. Like Tarantino, when he shot like Reservoir Dogs, right?
Yeah.
Again, low budget, mostly in one single room with like a couple car scenes and like a diner scene.
Yeah.
Very low budget, but he made it look and feel like a Hollywood movie.
Okay.
And he used basically tactics and style that was used in the past because it's easy to replicate, right?
Yeah.
I think Smith, on the other hand, look at the camera work. It looks almost handheld, And that's the thing with this is what's amazing about this movie is that, Dogma, they had a bigger budget and they had this all-star cast, still shot it like an independent film.
But that's the limitation of Kevin Smith. I think not necessarily as a screenwriter or a producer, but I think his limitation is being a director. I don't think that he's as effective as a Quentin Tarantino, which unfortunately limits him. Now there are, but his style is unique to where you're willing, in my opinion, I'm willing to give Kevin Smith a pass as long as it's his own film.
I just love the way you talk about Kevin Smith like he's Martin Scorsese.
I think he's
like
great.
he's Steven Spielberg.
I don't think he's like a Steven Spielberg, but I think he's more in line with a Quentin Tarantino, especially if we look at what he's done and what he's accomplished.
I just Googled great directors, to get some comparison. Quentin Tarantino's on that list. Kevin Smith is not.
I'm not suggesting he's a great director. I'm saying that he directs movie in a style that that the message he wants to get across.
Here's the difference. Yes, he wants to get his message across. That doesn't make it a quality or funny message. His directing actually hurts the movie, and I'll get into that later, where I think his plot is good, but him on the camera makes the movie seem cheap. It seems lightweight. There's nothing to it.
No, he's gotten a little bit better. Like Zack and Miri Make a Porno is pretty decent. It's good. I haven't seen Yoga Hosers or Tusk. I haven't seen any of those. I mean, I'm not that big of a Kevin Smith fan, but I mean, I think he admits that. But now a target, Bethany is attacked by the triplets who are driven off by the two foretold prophets, drug-dealing stoners, Jay and Silent Bob. Bethany and the prophets are joined by Rufus, played by Chris Rock, who is the 13th apostle, and Serendipity, the muse of creative inspiration, played by Salma Hayek, now working in a strip club in search of inspiration on her own. Azrael summons the Golgothan, a vile creature made of human excrement, but Silent Bob, immobilizes it with an aerosol air freshener.
So I think this movie would have benefited, and Kevin Smith would have benefited from an adult in the room. Somebody who would tell him something wasn't a good idea. The movie's 2 hours plus, right? And it is filled with a lot of good ideas, a lot of concepts. It's everything that you've talked to your friends about when you're debating religion and things. I used to go to church with my wife, and I would raise questions to the pastor to kind of get him into a debate.
You were the Bartleby of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Orlando, Florida.
I was, and to the point where they didn't want me to come back. So the religious debate is good, okay? And it works, but it's almost as if he took every single idea that he had and just shoved it into this movie. So it is scene after scene of new point, beating it home to where you lose the basic premise that Kevin Smith is saying, no one is correct. It's more about how you feel, how you live, that no one's 100% correct, that religion is a combination of things and we should accept. And he just runs off on tangents left and right, so that's lost.
I disagree. Because as a Catholic, I felt like this script was informative and respective of the Catholic religion and did a funny way to explain Catholicism to maybe those who didn't know or hadn't been to Mass in a while. And I think that's done very effectively.
So I agree with that. I think what Big D is saying, I don't think you guys necessarily disagree here, which is that whole Catholicism part, I agree was very informative. I think I learned more about Catholicism from this one movie. I think the only other movie that taught me about Catholicism this much was Bram Stoker's Dracula. But the problem is what Big D's saying is, okay, cool, we got that storyline. What's this muse doing here? What's that all about? Why is she even, involved? And by the way, I think it was just a reason, kind of like Quentin Tarantino did with From Dusk Till Dawn, to get Salma Hayek in the movie. Because, dude, she cannot act. This is not a language barrier. She literally just sort of says lines slowly and with completely incorrect emphasis. She's beautiful, but this is a waste of a role. If you're going to bring the muse in, have her contribute in some way. This was indulgent and ridiculous.
So here's my problem, or here's my defense of Salma Hayek. She's acting in a different language. She's acting in a language that's not her first language.
I just said that, but inflection.
Oh, did you? Okay,
yeah, but inflection doesn't matter. So if you told me in Spanish, if you told me in Spanish to say something and you're saying you're angry, I don't know Spanish, but I can still say quesadilla, taco, burrito. I'm that sounded more festive, but you know what I mean? By the way, I know more Spanish than that.
Yeah. But I
Hola, mi compadre.
I think Salma Hayek does a fine job for what she's asked to do here. And I think
what is she asked to do?
She's asked to dance around in a lovely bra and panties. No, but she's there to inform the group of what Azrael is up to, right? And all of that, right?
Right. So she's like, I'm going to watch this shit monster, and then I'm going to come back and tell you guys that Azrael's up to something. There's a million other ways you could do that without bringing another character with another storyline, about her. And by the way, you said that she was dancing in a bra and panties. No. She's dancing dressed as a schoolgirl. And I just want to take this moment to say, like, I don't get the schoolgirl stripper thing. Like, I love exotic dancers. I think strip clubs are great. And the older I get, the creepier this schoolgirl thing seems to me. Like, I don't want an innocent girl or a naughty child to get naked for me. Like, if you were at a strip club and somebody comes out in a sexy schoolgirl outfit, if you don't walk out, I consider you to have pedophilic tendencies at that point. Like, what is wrong with you? Shame on you.
Well, like Catholic schoolgirl, I think, is maybe what they were trying to say here.
But I mean, Britney Spears based her whole early career on "Oops, I Did It Again" in this outfit. And there's a reason why babysitter porn is one of the top search.
Babysitter, not the baby.
Yeah, but it's still that it's still that young girl. She was dressed up like a high school senior, not like 12 or 13 years old.
I consider it progress in society though, that all the porn now is stepmoms. Like, we've grown up, like we're like, that's a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, you guys didn't sleep with your stepmoms growing up?
No.
No, my dad died in 19 right before I was born, so I never got to meet him. But I really appreciate you guys constantly bringing that up.
Again, we didn't bring it up, but this is like another side trip that
I don't think it's a side trip.
It is. It takes us off of
Jason Mewes. At this point, I apologize not to overstep you.
If you guys, for everyone at home, Raj has now reached out and touched me.
And it's making me uneasy. I don't like recording.
He's adding one more tool to his arsenal and talking over people is the hand.
The reason they go to the strip club is because Jason was just informed by the apostle that he jerks off more than any person in the world, but when he does it, he's thinking of boys, so they go to the strip club across the street.
They threw that joke in as a reason to get to Salma Hayek in a strip club. It's the reverse. They didn't go to the strip club because they wanted to answer that question. They said, holy shit, we got Salma Hayek here. She looks great. Let's get her on stage. How do we get her here? How do they go from Moby's to here? And that's part of the problem. Then you have that other fucking Moby fucking misdirect side.
I think it's Moby.
Yeah, Moby.
Moby, booby.
So then that's the same thing as they have that other Moby side mission where Loki and Bartleby are going to go to the corporate headquarters of Moby. And that's like a combination of McDonald's and Mickey Mouse. Is it funny? Yeah. Is Affleck and Damon funny in it? Yes. Is Smith trying to make a bigger point? Yes. But we don't fucking need it. It was put in there for no other reason other than to just another thought that he had to jam pack in there, just like the Muse.
This coming from the group of people that we've sat through 2 seasons of American Gods together and witnessed Neil Gaiman's every episode talking about a different thing in America and how gods have lost their power as a result of things like the internet and TV and ideology and a lust for greed and consumerism in materialistic ways. If you're going to do that, why not also do a big fuck you to the studio that wouldn't distribute your movie and pawned you off to the Weinsteins? I think this is a great scene.
If you were a defense attorney for this movie,
terrible,
and then you said, Your Honor, and people of the jury, this movie is just as good as American Gods. On Stars, I'm pretty sure that you'd be hit for malpractice.
What I'm saying is, I don't think it's malpractice. I think it's something else.
Malfeasance? Shitty lawyering.
Aha. No, what I'm saying is, like, for a 2-hour movie, for them to to be tackling a giant subject like Catholicism and religion in America, this type of scene I think was needed, and it's done in a comedic yet dark way. I'm like John. I love scenes like this. I thought this was well needed in a movie where you're going to have 2 angels who are on a quest to dissolve existence.
Oh, okay. So this is a lack of focus, and you can't show everything in a movie. You would want in Top Gun to watch the maintenance guys take apart the engines. Mm-hmm. You'd want to see what's going on in the mess hall.
Yeah.
You'd want to see some of the HR.
Are they dressed like they are when they were playing volleyball? Of course I do.
You're trying to do 50 different things. And if you want the end of the movie to be people walk out with a profound breakthrough that they've said, you know what, I'm going to be more tolerant. No. Instead, you're just confusing and muddying the message. They left it in because it's funny. It's funny to see Bartleby expose all the individual people at the table's sins. That's funny. But in the end, you didn't need it. It didn't make any sense, and it didn't get to the end mission of going to New Jersey. It was just another bump in the road.
I don't know. I feel like the one mistake that I think Kevin Smith did was casting Chris Rock, who at the time, I think he had done Bring the Pain, Bigger and Blacker. So at the time, Chris Rock is huge. He's cast in this movie as Rufus, the 13th Apostle. Chris Rock, if you say Salma Hayek cannot act, I counter with Chris Rock's acting in this movie. Because Rufus, to me, I find is the most interesting character. In fact, I wanted to see more of him. He says no one is ever 100% right. And we should have an open mind to everything, consider all values and all points of view. And I think that's a worthy, interesting message that unfortunately is delivered through, now, when I was hanging out with Jesus, he was black. Man, Jesus still owes me $12. Like it's overshadowed, like this great character who, is in the movie, to say all this also is counterbalanced with yelling, unnecessary yelling and bad emoting by Chris Rock.
So for people who haven't seen behind the scenes on this podcast, normally we put our notes in and we can see each other's notes so we know roughly what each person's going to talk about. Raj did not include in there that he was going to be doing a Chris Rock impersonation. We would have had a talk before the podcast about recording that. But Raj, I think what Big D's saying, again, I don't think you guys are disagreeing here. Big D's saying, yeah, there is a message here and it's buried under a bunch of shit. Yeah. The shit monster, the movies, thing, which I thought, all these scenes were okay, but you got to pick and choose, right? What are you going to go with? What are you not going to go with? And I'm not a fan of the gratuitous sacrilege in this movie. At some point, I feel like it's just being done for sacrilege's sake. It's not really making a strong message there. And this is coming, again, from an atheist and former LaVeyan Satanist. But there is a really good point made about dogma as a concept, that you're seeing these two angels. If we really enforced Holy Writ, people would be slaughtered all over the fucking place.
Of course.
Every day. Like if angels were really allowed to serve God as Holy Law commanded, we'd be like seriously fucked. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's kind of, there's a message there too in saying that, look, be glad that that the true religious order as depicted in the Bible is not enforced, because we'd all be in really deep shit. Mm-hmm. But again, I think that gets buried in the fact that, it's there's also a shit monster and Salma Hayek and
the Golgothan is the shit we'd be buried underneath, right?
And you beat it with poopery.
Well, I think
it's terrible.
Well, on a train in New Jersey, a drunken Bethany reveals her message to Bartleby, who tries to kill her. Silent Bob throws the angels off the train. Bartleby and Loki now realize the consequences of their scheme, and Loki wants no part of destroying all existence, but Bartleby remains angry at God for his expulsion. Bethany asks why she has been called upon to save the universe, and Metatron admits that God disappeared while visiting New Jersey in human form to play skee-ball. The task falls to Bethany because she is the last scion, a distant but direct blood relative of Jesus.
Okay, so Matt Damon, again, Academy Award winning Matt Damon. Was the chewing gum, was that an unintentional mistake, or was it part of the character? He is chewing open mouth gum, and the gum mysteriously disappears, reappears, disappears, reappears. Was he just chewing gum and Kevin Smith didn't notice in the edits?
You're paying a lot of attention to Matt Damon's mouth, dude. I didn't notice that.
How could you not?
I did know the chewing gum, but I thought maybe it's because as the harbinger of death, as the death angel, you spew fire, methane, you rain sulfur down, right? So maybe that's his breath is the sulfur. So maybe that's why he chews gum now to stay minty fresh. I don't know.
You are the biggest Kevin Smith homer
I really am.
I've ever met. Holy God.
Is it the movie or is it recording in person?
No,
what is created
I really like
3.0?
I like Kevin Smith. But I mean, this also points out another interesting. Now, I don't like this scene. I think Kevin Smith. I know why Kevin Smith put it in there, right? Because Bethany is struggling with this mission from God, right? She's struggling, and Rufus again explains, well, if you don't think that you're not the only one. For 18 years, that gap is missing between young Jesus and what we think of carpenter, adult Jesus, going through the desert with his apostles. So for those 18 years, what was he doing? He was struggling with this directive to go be the savior for all of humanity. And what kind of, how would that play with your mind? How would you grasp with that concept? And this scene is in there, and I think it's kind of overacted. I think kind of Linda Fiorentino's kind of phoning it in as well in some of these scenes, especially this one.
Also a wasted opportunity for a wet t-shirt shot. It's there's too many layers going on there.
But she gets there. She's saved by Alan Rickman, who comes in and starts talking about this and sits down with her. And I thought to myself, I was like, what what would happen if I was visited by the Metatron and was handed a mission from God and told I was the last remaining, relative of Jesus Christ? Would I be able to handle that? I don't know if I would. I would try to maybe come to you guys who are my closest friends and say, you'll never fucking guess what happened. I had a dream last night that I was visited by the voice of God, and they've told me I've got to go on this mission, and I need help. Will you come help me? I think I would follow through. I would at least attempt to follow the mission from God. Would you, if this happened to you, would you attempt it, or would you fight against it?
Well, the way we would find out about it is when you updated your status on Facebook and Twitter, telling us that you'd been chosen.
I think your first questions would be like, is this something I can solve by ordering from Amazon? And then question 2 is like, do I have to leave the green zone? Do I have to leave Scottsdale in order to do this? Wait, it's in Gilbert? Nah. You're on your own, God.
That's right.
For me, look, I think we're all looking for purpose in life. And I was thinking about it the other day, when I was a kid, and I think everybody starts out this way, we're all very pumped up and amped about life and what we're going to do. And I remember being like, I'll never settle down, and I never want to, give up my freedom because there's so much out there for me, and, I got to do all these things. And then now I'm like old, and I'm just like, yeah, I really like going to the gym and training and keeping my house clean. I like walking my dog and like cooking food. I like reading books. And I'm like, man, that's it. We're just going to do this until we die. I mean, we make a podcast. I guess that's cool. But yeah, if a messenger from God said, hey, do this other thing, and I was like convinced of it, I'd be like, fuck yeah, something to do. Great.
Oh, yeah. I'd be on board with you.
I think
it'd be fun.
Well, when you think of like Mission of God movies, right? Like what was the one with
Blues Brothers?
Blues Brothers, and then what's the one with Matthew McConaughey?
Lincoln Lawyer?
Fallen? Is it Fallen?
There was Michael with John Travolta.
No, yeah. No, it's the movie with Matthew McConaughey where he's the younger brother. There's an older brother.
Dallas Buyers Club.
No, not Dallas Buyers Club, where his father is asking him to go and destroy demons with him.
Yeah, I think that was Fallen.
Is it Fallen?
I think so.
No, Fallen is
not Falling Down. Fallen with Denzel Washington, I think that might be it. What is that movie? It's got Kevin.
Stigmata?
No, it's not Stigmata.
Frailty.
That's it. Frailty. If you were ordered by the voice of God to kill your wife because she was a demon, would you be able to go through with it?
No, I would check myself into some kind of mental institution. Yeah, I'm hearing voices.
I'd kill your wife.
No, it's not worth it.
No? But what if she was a demon?
You're fucking stupid.
You gotta believe.
You're stupid.
Listen, Jesus asked for all the firstborn children to be killed as well.
So your answer, I'm not going on a mission with you.
No, okay. All right. Well, the group fails to persuade Glick to cancel the celebration. Azrael and the triplets trap the group in a bar where Azrael reveals that he sent the news clipping to the angels, and he would rather end all existence than spend eternity in hell. Silent Bob kills Azrael with a golf club, which Glick had blessed to improve his game. Bethany blesses the bar sink's contents, and the others drown the triplets in the holy water. They then race to the church where Bartleby has killed Glick, his parishioners, and assorted bystanders, when Loki, who is now wingless and therefore mortal, with a conscience attempts to stop him. Bartleby kills him as well.
Big D pointed out before with all these side quests and stuff like that. These angels, and I know they addressed in the movie too, where Bartleby is like, hey, let's just go through the fucking church doors already. And then Loki's like, no, let's go kill some shit first. I mean, so they at least pointed out, like the movie is self-aware in that sense. But then they get to the church and they're wasting so much fucking time. Like, this plan is so simple. You transmute, you get your ass in the church, then you get killed. Why are you fucking around? Like, it's like they don't even want to get into heaven. And this is where I'm like, I don't even care at this point because they clearly don't.
Oh, come on. For the lack of action that's in this movie, and there's a little bit of action, but it's very amateurish and comedic. The movie is 2 hours long. The pacing is pretty fast. It moves. Every scene is interesting.
What are you talking about?
And tries to explain things. Like when they go to, like when you think to yourself, well, why don't they just go to the Cardinal to stop him? There actually is a scene of them going to Glick. And I think this is one of my favorite scenes because I'm a huge George Carlin fan. If you're a fan of his comedy.
No, your whole goal, you've been suffering in Wisconsin, is to go through, get back into heaven and undo God's word. You're going to fucking down a bottle of champagne, or I don't know what that was. You're going to cut your own wings off, and then you're going to fly around dropping people You've run out of people around the church, so you go find more people. Just go into the door. Mission accomplished. You claim that you've seen enough Bond movies that you don't tell everything. Go through the fucking door. You are the Bond villain that you just commented on.
No, that was Azrael saying it, not.
I'm saying Bartleby. The movie itself.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Smith is aware of how Bond villains are stupid and undo their own work, but yet he has his main characters do it.
I think the motivation for the angels here is before we transmute, before we go through, let's do one last. Let's get out of our system before we go. You know, it's like going on a diet. You're like, tonight I'm gonna fucking eat an entire birthday cake, and then I'm going on my diet.
Yeah, it's like a diet, except it's getting into heaven or being stuck in Wisconsin, which I would argue is quite heavenly. I love Wisconsin. But, you know, Roger, you pointed to the massacres thing. And from the point when they're at the gun shop, actually very early in the movie, both of us are kind of looking at each other going, oh, man, this is weird. And then you have the shooting on the bus. You're like, and you got the shooting in the border. I'm like, fuck, man. And it's weird because we talk about it a lot with what's passable as comedy. So, when we watch these 80s movies like The Breakfast Club and stuff, we'll see the liberal use of gay jokes, and there's racist jokes, there's sexism. And we look back, and it's very jarring in retrospect to see like fag spray painted on a locker, or, hear somebody say, oh, you hit like a girl. The violence in this movie, like particularly the mass shootings, it definitely has that effect in the current climate. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. This is not the fault of Kevin Smith or anybody involved in the production of this movie. At that time, this seems so far-fetched.
Correct.
That we'd be like, whoa, like only a crazed angel would do something like this.
Well, how about the police officer that the cardinal's like, all right, police officer Magoo or whatever, like, cuff him. And he's like, all right, rebel rouser, you're coming with me. Like, today in that climate, like, there'd be 15 SWAT cops on that one guy, on Bartleby trying to take him down. But yeah, it's weird watching. I wonder if that's going to be a generational thing. If 10 years from now, we're going to look back at movies that had comedic movies that had mass violence. If we're going to look at in the same way that we are with language.
Yeah, it's what's really weird about that convergence is this happened in 99. This movie came out in 99. The Matrix 99. Columbine was 99.
That's
so
right.
Prior to Columbine, this was completely out of our scope of reality.
That's right.
Like a mass shooting like this, and so. I don't know. It's just weird to me that this is like the new normal. Mm-hmm. And when we watch movies like this, we're like, "Fuck, man, we were so innocent back in '99. We just thought that this was like this is the stuff of horror films and comic books.
That's right.
Not real life."
I agree.
Well, I don't think churches want any kind of press conferences on their front steps anymore. Usually involves a settlement.
Yeah. Oof. Topical. Jay attempts to.
I don't mean to laugh at that. I'm sorry.
It's gun violence. Off topic. Priest diddling little boys. We're still on it.
Big D, when you say I don't mean to laugh at that, and then you laugh, you negate the I don't mean to laugh at that. It's like I don't want to sound racist, but
I know.
Well, Jay attempts to seduce Bethany before all existence ends. Bethany deduces John Doe Jersey is God's mortal vessel. Bethany and Silent Bob race across the street to the hospital as the others try to block Bartleby's path to the church. Bethany disconnects John's life support, liberating God, but killing herself in the process. Bartleby reaches the church entrance where he confronts God, manifested in a female form. She annihilates him with her voice. Silent Bob arrives with Bethany's now lifeless body. God resurrects her and conceives a child, the new last scion within her womb. God, Metatron, Rufus, and Serendipity all return to heaven, leaving Bethany and the prophets to reflect on the past and the future. End movie. So, guys, one of the other things that we were on the water with the King Bee, and we told him we were doing Dogma, and he's like, oh, that fucking Alanis Morissette cameo, huh? Fuck that movie. So I got to ask the question, did you like Alanis Morissette as God?
This movie was going downhill very quickly for me, and this was just like the icing on the shit cake, I guess. It was, she's not just God. She's everything I don't like about this movie. She's quirky 90s God.
Yeah.
Let's be weird. She's doing the handstands, the cutesy smile, stopping to smell the roses. It's just all that alternativeness, right? And it reminds me of like every weird kid at the coffee shop in the 90s and in high school that was just like, I'm weird. Check out how weird I am. Isn't it ironic? Don't you think? And this reminds me of like Big D's whole rant on Edward Scissorhands. It's like that fucking weirdness just for the sake of being weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, Alanis Morissette is about the least God-like figure I could think of in the sense that it's like, I could have seen, here you go. You want God? How about like a Judi Dench? You could do like a Glenn Close would be a good god. You know, anybody like that. But it's not the woman part. It's the Alanis Morissette. Is just she's fucking ugh.
I don't really have a problem with Alanis Morissette here because if this movie were to be remade today, it would be like Zooey Deschanel being God, right? Like that quirky.
Right, but why not use like a James Judi Dench or a freaking because Glenn Close?
You'd be expecting someone like that, right? Like
Susan Sarandon or Sigourney Weaver. I don't know the difference. Could be either of them.
Sigourney Weaver would have been a good choice. I agree with you on that one, but I don't really have the Alanis Morissette hate. Why do you guys hate Alanis Morissette?
You were picking her to be different. You were picking her, so it's like, whoa, not only is she a woman, but she's like a hippie woman. Oh, they won't be expecting that.
So, I mean,
and then we're going to make it a pop artist, and we're going to include her song at the end. Whoa.
Would you rather have been like Britney Spears? Would you ever rather be?
No, I would have rather had to be somebody who was an established senior, like a female actress.
I got one for you.
All right.
Tracy Chapman.
Even that would have been
Tracy Chapman God would have been cool.
Oh, there would have been protests then.
It's terrible. Well, think about very rarely when I watch a movie many times as I have with Dogma, I don't learn anything new. But at the end, Bethany's death, I thought for years the scars were martyrdom based upon Jesus's scars. Yeah. So she starts bleeding, and I'm like, oh, she's bleeding out of her wrist.
Yeah, stigmata.
Stigmata with the spear.
Thing, yeah.
It turns out, if you notice, I had to rewind and look because Big D challenged me on this. When she releases John Doe jersey, there's a bolt of lightning that, I guess it's God, existence, returning to heaven. It, I guess, goes off in a different direction and it hits her in the back, which goes through, I guess, her kidney or abdomen or whatever, causing...
It's your liver on that side.
Is it the liver?
Yeah.
Whatever. It scars her and starts bleeding. So that's the actual injury. God actually kills her, but then resurrects her. But that was something that I learned, and I did not know.
So I want to ask you guys something here, and you can write in also. I think I want the audience to chime in here. The Immaculate Conception, right?
Uh-huh.
No one ever asks her if she's okay with it. We understand that she was barren. She wanted a child.
Sure.
But she didn't want maybe God's child, or maybe she wanted to be part of it. Now that she's pregnant, I think that's fucked up. I think you have to ask somebody before you impregnate them. I think this is almost some kind of like a form of rape.
You think Bethany put a child Me Too'd by God?
I think you put a child into Bethany's womb without asking her. You have to get her consent.
So I think that God, being all-knowing, knows that Bethany wants a child and hasn't been able to conceive, and therefore is gifting it to her.
So you're saying that he felt he knew what she wanted?
He
felt didn't have
she
to ask?
knew what she wanted.
Ooh, that's right.
So she knew that she wanted it.
God knows everything.
God's not really a he or a she.
How are you trusting her?
She's not really anything.
Why are you trusting her? Maybe that's just what she's telling you. Oh, I know she wanted it.
You know, Raj, when you recite the line, I can actually understand what it is. When Chris Rock said it, I had no idea.
I think Immaculate Conception is something that doesn't exist. It's just a story in the Bible. It's not real.
Don't defend the rest of this movie. I thought it was okay.
I thought it was
hold on. If Alanis Morissette wants to give you a child and stick it into your stomach and force you to give birth,
I can give birth now too?
Yes.
As a result?
Yes.
I mean, maybe.
So you're going to keep this child?
I'll keep it.
Okay, so you're shooting 50%.
That's terrible.
Yeah, needless to say, guys, or girls, don't assume somebody wants something. Ask them.
That's right. Well, now's the time of the podcast where we break out our Shat meter and give you our wipe scores. If you've never listened to the podcast before, Zero Wipes is a perfect movie. It's like watching Serendipity up on stage take all of your money. It's just absolutely fantastic. I guess, I don't know, it's holy water that you dunk demons' heads into and burn them. It's Zero Wipes. I don't know, it's good. 5 Wipes is a Golgothan coming out of a strip club toilet and then shooting its excrement out of its hands, like little excrement shit rockets right at you. So 0 Wipes is fine. 5 Wipes is bad. We'll start with you. Big D, how many wipes do you give Dogma?
So I think it's an ambitious story. I think Smith is taking on something that he knows is going to be controversial, and it demonstrates the things that he does well and the things that he's terrible at. The writing is good. I think it's funny. I think it's upbeat. It does keep moving, but what he does terribly is directing, and I think it hurts the script. Most of the editing is done so straightforward. There are no dynamic shots. Everything is quick back and forth from the perspective of who's speaking. And the lack of those dynamic big shots makes it feel like a smaller film. I think that his shortcomings as a craftsman, creating these visual scenes, hurts him with the dialogue. He had a story that was compelling. If he could have whittled it down, if he had somebody who was more capable at matching the visuals to the story, I think it could have been a movie that people really talked about beyond just the controversy. And for that, I think, good script, bad visual direction, and terrible editing, I think it's an average film at best. I will give Jay and Silent Bob another chance, but Kevin Smith didn't do more than just affirm what I'd already thought about him.
So how many wipes?
Oh, 2.5. It's average. And that's being kind.
All right, 2.5 wipes. Gene, how many wipes?
I'm with Big D on this. I respect what Kevin Smith is trying to do here, but I'm not crazy about the execution. He basically got the right to hire whomever he wanted and do whatever he wanted, despite church criticism, despite protests. He got to make the movie that he envisioned. And basically, after all that, budget, cast, everything, you still got nothing better than an independent film. The score was awful. Every time something dramatic would happen, it'd be like, dun, dun, dun. It reminded me of like the Toxic Avenger score, really. It was very close. The script was overdone. The weird stuff felt forced. I hate when weird is forced. When weird is natural, like I don't know if you guys have seen The Cable Guy, very, very naturally weird stuff going on there. Whereas in this one, it felt a little bit forced. But on the flip side, this is a movie that stands alone. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. There's just nothing like this. It is definitely an original, independent, strange film. And Matt Damon, George Carlin, Jason Mewes, and Ben Affleck were super entertaining. Like these guys, again, like you said, Raj, two different movies going on here. Yeah. You had one cast that was fan-fucking-tastic and a bunch of people around them that were kind of bringing them down. But again, Damon, Carlin, Mewes, Affleck, super entertaining. It's good. It's not enough to be great. And for me, it's a 2-wiper.
So it's not often that you guys dislike a movie and I really like a movie, but this is one of those cases. Outside of Clerks, this is my favorite Kevin Smith movie. Is it perfect? No, for all the reasons that you guys pointed out. Certainly there's uneven acting performances. Sure, the direction could have been better. But the uniqueness of a Kevin Smith movie lies within the dialogue and the message of that movie and what he's trying to get across. And just like Clerks, I think this is some of his best work. He was coming off of Chasing Amy, which was critically lauded. This movie also has a high tomato score. A lot of critics still praise it, and it's something that I still think holds up. The message being, be a fucking good person. No religion gets it right. And in a time of unfortunate extremism that we're experiencing now, it's kind of nice to go back and think that this was a controversial movie, and it's really fucking not. It's not. In fact, it's almost better now. It's all the message that it's preaching, I think, was ahead of its time. And I don't think that there's a movie like this.
I think it is a bit strange that I would say that this movie shows more reverence for Catholicism than you would think.
It really does.
It's like, it's not really like, at no point does it really like shit on the church
it doesn't at all. It's very respectful.
It's kind of weird.
Of the shit. I mean, the shipmonts are bad CGI with, bad practical effects. I think that's the only bad.
Well, they do make a comment when they're talking to the cardinal about the church turning their back on the Holocaust and a couple of the other things.
Yeah, and they probably could have thrown in some priest on altar boy love situation that the spotlight.
I don't think it's love.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But unlike Chasing Amy or Mallrats, I still think this one stands the test of time, and for that reason, I got to agree with John, who commissioned this movie. This is a one-wipe movie. It's not perfect, but I enjoyed myself, and for a 2-hour movie where there's very little action, it's a lot of dialogue, it's a Kevin Smith film, I think it's great. So 1 wipe. So if we give 1 wipes, 2 wipes, and 2.5 wipes, I know our math has been a little squirrely right here, but Gene, what is our overall combined Shat score?
Well, I appreciate you guys and the listeners giving me a second chance on or third chance on my math here. But the average for this movie is 1.83 repeating for Dogma. Very respectable score, John. Very respectable.
So if we were to compare, so is that 1.83 repeating and put that in the Golgothan of of Shat movies that we reviewed here. What do we got?
Yeah, so this is movie 120 with a score of 1.83. Repeating, it is tied in the 47 spot with Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Starship Troopers.
Oh, this movie is not as good as Starship Troopers.
Oh, this movie is way better than Starship Troopers. Way better. No. It's a different film. It's a different film.
Yeah, Starship Troopers was a good film.
I should point out for the listeners at home that the math thing is about the Karate Kid.
Yes.
So we should go into that for a second. Basically, it's my duty to take everyone's scores and divide. In dividing, I did some bad math, and I said that the Karate Kid had a Shat score of 1.6 repeating. In fact, it has a score of 1.16 repeating, which, with as many movies as we've done and as tight as these races can be, that moves it up quite a bit.
Oh, it's a dramatic difference. So as Gene is doing the math, I'm pulling up the rankings, so that's why I didn't even catch it. But we thought it was tied in the 43rd spot at 1.67 with Gremlins, Planes, Trains, and Automobile, and War Games. It is actually tied in the 24th spot with Coming to America, Raising Arizona, Braveheart, Heat, When Harry Met Sally, and of course the movie we reviewed, The Karate Kid, with a 1.17.
See, I kind of feel like it was better in its last ranking than it was.
No,
it's because you're better. Crazy.
I don't know. Speaking of Golgothans, Big D has been blowing up my bathroom and my guest bedroom the entire weekend.
Well, on the pod, you're always talking about your bidets. He's probably just trying to try it out.
I try to get him to use it. Yeah, try it out. He won't do it.
No, because every time I go in there is the remnants of whatever water he had sprayed in fecal matter.
That's not true. I flush.
Yes.
Oh, you're crazy.
It looks like you poured the remnants of a bowl of minestrone soup in the toilet.
That's horrifying visual.
A bidet has not been built that could take Big D's ass.
You need
all the aqueducts in Rome.
I didn't use it
to blow that shit off his ass.
No, if it looked like it was sanitary, I might use it.
Colorado River, we're gonna need to call up Colorado and buy some more water.
Are your shits bigger than normal people's shits?
No.
The consistency though might be different. Because you're a giant.
Okay, whatever.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere on social media, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just follow at Shat the Movies. Our Facebook website is shatthemovies.com/Facebook. You can find all past episodes on shatthemovies.com, including our support page where you can recommend and commission movies there. We take Venmo and PayPal. And if you don't want to commission a movie, we can make a few pennies off all your purchases on Amazon through our Amazon affiliate link. You can find that also on our website. It will help us keep the lights on over here at Shat on Entertainment. Thank you so much for listening. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, and Spotify. Be sure to subscribe if you stop by iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. It does help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and True Detective. Find all the information on that website, shatontv.com. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Gene, the Golgothan Lions, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next week for the following movie review. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, good night, and good luck.
Cable guy!
Let's do this.
Slip the cable guy $50. He'll give you all the movie channels for free.
You're offering me a bribe. What you have just done is illegal. And in this state, if convicted, you could be fined up to $5,000 or spend 6 months in a correctional facility.
Oh, please. No, that was dumb. I was just making conversation.
I'm just jerking your chin. I'll juice you up.
For Stephen Kovacs.
Hey! You guys play here too?
Cool.
The price of cable just went up.
Okay, Chip Douglas, you're on my team. Let's play.
No way. I'm on Steven's team.
Now.
Oh, we're not friends. I don't even know you. Well, let's fix that.
He's got a friend he can't control.
Where are we going? Only the finest restaurant in town.
Can I have your skin? Check this out. Silence of the Lambs.
I just don't have any room in my life for a new friend.
So,
What are you trying to say?
A friend who will not be ignored.
I gave you free cable. The guy is a sociopath. He leaves messages on my machine night and day.
If you're there, pick up. Pick up, pick up, pick up, pick up, pick up.
He shows up wherever I go. He won't leave me alone.
He's gonna need some tough love.
There's Stephen Kovacs in here.
I'm Stephen Kovacs. I didn't do anything. Just call my cable guy.
At least look into it. Nobody named Chip Douglas works for the cable company.
Suspicious, isn't it?
You're all being fooled by him. He's a lunatic and he's a felon.
Don't mess with me.
Come back here so that I may bring thee.
I'm here for you.
Don't do that. You're going to get me killed.
Oh, Billy.
Jim Carrey, Matthew Broderick, the Cable Guy.
Okay, I'm going. Take off.